are live now. We're gonna give it a couple of seconds, get people in here. I know some people from my team are gonna be in here.
All I care about is the pick'ems. I just want to beat the weight. I'll get some water really fast while you're.
Okay, you're chilling, you're chilling.
Alright. I am chilling and back.
Alrighty. Welcome on in. Is there any particular place you want me to post this if anyone is interested in watching out of Merc?
You could put this in. Or do you want to like so it's on your Twitch, right?
Yeah, it'll be streamed on my Twitch as well as be posted to my YouTube.
Okay. So do that. Do it in an unofficial content, and then you can add everyone. Doesn't matter.
No podcast rule to add.
I add everyone anyways all the time. Doesn't matter. They can mute me if they want. Unless you can't, then I'll do it for you. But
aha, I can do it.
That needs to change.
Dad, you don't want me to add everyone? That's crazy.
Well, no, not random people adding everybody. That's the bigger problem.
Yeah, it just gives you a warning, and I can do it no issue.
Yeah, nice.
I got a Me6 level up from posting that. I actually hate this bot so much.
Yeah, I don't.
I hate Me6.
Not my favorite bot either, but here we are.
Yeah, it is what it is. Welcome on in, everyone.
See the biggest gappers.
We got week 1 of MochiiYaps. And I'm here with DPFiFi. If you people that don't know, DPFiFi is the director of IBSG for Merc Academy. What do you bring to the table? Like, tell us a little about yourself, Fifi. Come on, tell us a little about yourself.
What do I bring to the table? Well, I brought you guys this master sheet. I've been doing a lot of work on this league as of late, and I'm happy to say that it's looking pretty nice, looking pretty optimal. I think after week 1, where we worked out all the kinks and stuff, it'll all kind of flow together for the rest of the season. So I'm really excited. The streams have been really fun. Nothing too hard. This isn't that time consuming. It's a great thing to get me through a work day as well, since I don't really have to do a ton for my job at the moment. So it's a nice way to pass the 12 hours I just sit there for. But yeah, are you enjoying it so far from a player's point of view?
I'm having a fun, and it's great that you branch into that. I am Mochi. People know me as Kermaza inside of Merc. So far, loving the league. I come from a 5-6 years of competitive league experience. I generally play up in a division. I might be a gold player, but I'm used to playing in Plat Diamond. Is what it is. Some people might recognize me from Style. I used to help run Style. Used to play a lot in Style. Weaponized Assault Penguins forever. My goats. We're gonna get right on. I say we transition right on into some of our talking points. Week 1 was interesting.
Yeah, we're about halfway through some of the matchups so far, and there's already been some interesting results, to say the least. Yeah, so we had the stream match that was on was it Monday or Tuesday, and it was Space Lost versus Hyperion, and Space Lost actually had a convincing 2-0 right there. So something I was a little shocked of. I thought Hyperion would put up a little bit more of a fight in that game, but I think they will down the stretch. I do think Space Lofts, like when I was doing player power rankings and stuff, they're actually a lot better than I maybe gave them credit for in the overall team power rankings. Just kind of looking at everything that they were playing and stuff like that, rank wise, they're kind of a sleeper team for sure. I have like them and White Lotus as kind of two people that I think I got a little wrong on the team power rankings and didn't feel great about. But yeah, moving on to the other matchup. So we had JRGC, Jolly Rogers Ghost Crew versus Rat Tactics, and shockingly, that series went to 3 games. Like I've said this before, I'll say it again. JRGC probably is in a tier of their own. Amazing amount of experience, and they have really good ranks on all their players. They have people that are award winners from other leagues and championship experience. It's got a lot on it pretty much. And Rat Tactics, the fact that they stole a game off of this team means a lot. Even though they lost, but like Rat Tactics really did show up for the West in this game. The other 2 games that the Rat Tactics played in this series, so the JRGC's wins, very convincingly that they beat Art Rat Tactics, I would say. But yeah, at least you have that one game that you could say, hey, we beat this team. We can beat anybody in the league as long as they bring that game energy back. And then the final one, which was the dropping point civil war between Hellfire and Phoenix Fire. Hellfire pulling up what I think is an upset. Dwight would not in his pickups, but they won 2-1 in a banger best of 3 series. I was shocked. I didn't think Hellfire would have the firepower to kind of go at Phoenix Fire. They're coming off the championship season from the season 1, where they took Stano Swell to 5 games, which is another very good team. So I don't know if this was just kind of a blooper game for them, or if this could be maybe a sign of something much greater. Both teams should be pretty strong, though. Like, these games were really fun, very, really competitive team fight, about 35-minute on average games. So they were no cupcake games. Besides the first game that DPP won, that was very convincing. But Hellfire able to run back a reverse sweep. So yeah, and that's basically what we're kind of caught up for on week 1. We still have some matchups. We have a matchup against SNC Coven Knights tonight versus Stano Swell. Hoping that one goes through. There's a little bit of a concern it might get forfeited on the side of Coven Knights due to some roster issues. But I think Stano might allow them to play. I've thrown it out there. There's like one player that they could sub that is like 20 games under. So hopefully that works out and they just waive that requirement. I told them it was okay. But yeah, then we have next Wednesday, which is kind of far out. This one's scheduled as well. It's SNC Dreamers and White Lotus. So the White Lotus is going to be doing Wednesday and Thursday back to back for week 1 and 2. That should be a good game. I have Dreamers fairly high in the power rankings. If I had to redo them, I'd probably swap them in Space Lofts, but I do still think Dreamers is still really good. And I think White Lotus is underrated. And that's a team that you happen to be on as the top winner right now. So yeah, I even thought that even before coming on the pod or anything like this. So it's, yeah. And then that last matchup, which I believe is happening Friday, the first 2 games. And if it goes to a 7-game series, they're going to reschedule that last game, is what both teams agreed on, which I'd love to see, by the way. Always, if you can always agree on scheduling stuff, I have no issues in this league. But so that's kind of what we talked in the captain's meeting. This is awesome. But it'll be Rivals versus Ag with Harambe. It's a very interesting name. I want to know what the AG stands for, Ag, but maybe I'll have to ask Major about that.
Has to be a question we have to ask, probably.
Yeah, I'd never really asked. It was it could probably mean something totally awful, and I just let it in the league. But oh well. But yeah, I think Rivals will win that game quite convincingly. I'm going to give it 2-0 just because of how good Rivals is. I think they're probably the only them and Stano are pretty much the only ones who I think personally can take down JRGC. But
Rivals does have a very strong looking roster.
They do. And I did miss this last little matchup. It's Merc Ginyu Force versus the new team, which is Elysian Esports Beach House. Beach House bringing on a lot of veterans, but a lot of them have game requirements. So I'm not really sure who's going to play week 1 for this team.
I don't know who week 1 is happening for this team.
Yeah, it's still unsure. I don't know when this is being scheduled either. Everything's kind of being they just got thrown in kind of really late because of the Milky Way drama at the beginning of the season. But I would expect actually any team that they throw together, even if it's so ragtag, that it has a lot of veterans already listed on there. So I think they're going to take down Merc Ginyu pretty easily, which I think because Merc Ginyu they don't have a ton on the roster at the moment. And I hope they do prove me wrong, because I do like these players as like, these people are awesome. Like, I've played with them a few times, and very nice individuals, and they know what they're doing to an extent, but they do need some stardom in the top and the jungle to really fully utilize what they have on their roster at the moment. So we'll see, but I'm going to go with Elysian on that one. I know I didn't make it a week 1 prediction, but I will go with the Whites Elysian team. Did you have any pick'ems that you had for like how you see these 4 series, the rest of these 4 series for week 1 going?
I mean, no bias or anything, but I do see White Lotus taking it over Dreamers. Totally no bias or anything coming from me.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with Rivals over AG. I think I actually tried out with Rivals, so I actually know their roster pretty well. It's pretty strong. Funny enough, their jungler used to be on White Lotus for a while. Loves to play for his team. Imagine I'm going to see a lot of tank junglers out of him. Very good utility. And I think with Rivals solo lanes, especially Nicholas and mid, I think that mid jungle duo is going to be what you need to watch out for on that team.
Did you try out for what role on that
top
team?
lane.
Top lane. Yeah, they do have a strong top laner. Yeah. I don't blame them at all.
Robo.
Either way, yeah,
Robo's a demon.
It'll be one of the better ones for sure. I think
they have
we have not seen him play.
We'll definitely see a really strong top side coming out from Rivals, and I think that's a lot of what the IBSG doesn't have, is that most of these teams play through their bot lanes. Rivals being one of the few that will play topside mostly based off of looking at their roster and seeing who's on it. They're definitely going to be a top heavy team. And that's not what a lot of these teams are going to be used to. So it's going to be really, it's going to come down to how well our team's going to adapt to Rivals' topside heavy drafts. And a lot of these top laners having to play weak side for these other rosters. How well can they play weak side when there's a jungler always up there?
Yeah, their bot lane is a big question mark. And it is really easy to jungle when your solo laners are Nicholas and Robo. So I think they'll get just about anything they can prio-wise topside. So if I would be curious to see if they'll have more of an invade style, or how their jungler really plays on Rivals. I don't really know them very well, and I don't think, the last time I checked, I don't really think they're on roll either. I could be that's a
support main going to jungle.
Foos, yeah, it's Foosy. Oh no, he does play some jungle. At least this season, he's spamming the fuck out of Udyr with a really high rate. So yeah, okay, yeah, Udyr's just giga fucking broken right now. That's don't blame him.
Yeah, that is a champion.
Did he just start this, or was he last season support? Is that what you're saying? Last season he was support?
Yeah, he was support on our roster. And
oh, okay, yeah, there's jungle games from last season. There are support games as well, but okay, so he's not a completely lost in the jungle, solo queue jungle. I think I have him towards probably the middle of the pack if I had brought up my power rankings again. But yeah, they should be just strong no matter what, though.
Yep,
On their
you have
roster.
them at 5. Yep, they're a really solid team.
I felt bad for putting I would feel bad if I put 4 East teams above the first West team, but it does kind of look like that is the case. Maybe DPP. Honestly, I would probably rank them a little lower after that. Um, the little upset that they allowed over DPH. So it's a roster that has to get better for sure. And to really warrant the name that they had last season.
Yeah, I think surprisingly in that series, because that's actually the shows I got to watch the entire thing. Hellfire looked really strong as a team. I think DPP, I think Phoenix Fire right now, they kind of are still playing a little more separate. But when it came down to team fights, Hellfire just kind of executed team fights a lot better.
Yeah, it's how I saw the game. So Phoenix Fire, there 3 of them are from Colorado Kid Killers, a roster that finished 8-1 last year. They did lose in the first round of the playoffs to this DPP team, or the majority of it at least. So it was a bit surprising to see that they didn't clean up again like they did last season. Um, it is encouraging to see though, as I do happen to own both these teams. So it is really nice to see that the gap between these teams is actually a lot much closer than I initially anticipated. But those Colorado Kid Killer guys, we have like 3 of them on the roster, and then 1 of them on sub duty. So we have 4 total. Those guys are all like IRL friends and stuff, and they've been playing for years together. I know that they played in another league together last split as well. So they have a lot of comp experience together themselves. And then Rico going back to playing AD carry is the best thing that probably could have happened for him because he doesn't really need to think about anywhere he needs to be in the jungle. And it's kind of, when you're playing AD carry, it's kind of just, you kind of get led places by your team instead of necessarily shot calling or starting the plays, which I didn't think was Rico's strong suit, but he can follow up pretty well. So now that they have that in the form of, Mason and Trey and Yoon, it should be a fairly good roster cohesively. But yeah, that is where the cohesion comes from, is from all those players playing together for years, basically.
Yeah. Looking forward just a little bit. I know we're not entirely done with week 1, but week 2 has some really spicy matchups. I think personally, I'm excited to see, after Rat Tactics had a pretty decent roster shift, I say, overall looking like a stronger team. Phoenix Fire versus Rat Tactics next week.
It's another test.
Yeah, this is a matchup that I'm gonna be personally looking forward to. Overall,
it does look like it does look like the best matchup wise of like the higher ranked teams from a glance. I think the closest matchup is actually MGF and HRH, which is Hyperion. I don't think Rivals and DPH will be that bad either, but yeah. What do you think? Is it just DPP and RT is just your game of the week?
I think that's personally my game of the week. I think that is going to be the most exciting matchup to watch. Especially, we saw a lot of changes come out from Rat Tactics side, and that kind of have a little bit of a scarier looking roster, in my opinion. And then Phoenix Fire, they're going to look to remedy their week 1 and the upset that happened. So we'll have to see what changes come through for Phoenix Fire. But I that is personally my match of the week. The other close one, like you said, would be Merkin Force and Hyperion. Hyperion kind of had a disappointing showing week 1 into Space Loss, but surely I think they can bounce back. It is not they may not be too high ranked, but once again, when you're in IBSG, sometimes it's not all about the ranks on paper and how well they actually cohesively play as a team.
I do agree. I've seen this more often than not, especially even playing. Um, there was an LXC Plat League, and there was a team called Brom Lives Matter. I know the name's a little, it's a little bit controversial and or funny for people, but it's they were like a gold silver team going into like a plat league that also allowed like emerald fours and stuff, and they made the playoffs. I think they got like top four, and we're just basically dogging people because of how like well they play their style at that level. Like they chose to play. I think they were very eligible to play in the lower division of arbiter, and they probably would have won arbiter, but they got like they just wanted to pull themselves up and for a challenge at the Plat League, and they were tough. Personally playing them, they had a lot better synergy than my team had at the time. So yeah, it's I don't think rank is means everything, but so far I think like I don't think like the comp experience even matters all that much right now, especially like the olden days. Like you have HRH who has had these veterans and these championship winners in IPSG for years, but like these championships were, you know, early or like late 2010s, you know, like it's been like 4 or 5 years. The game's shifted drastically. Even this latest split has changed the game drastically. So I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced on some of the factors I used to be to determine how good a team is early on. But so far, I feel in a pretty good spot where I know who's like a bigger dog in this league and stuff. So
Yeah.
but yeah, did you have any predictions for the next week? I'd love to
I
hear your.
actually have pick'ems already for the next week, completely done and prepared. After seeing most of week 1, we kind of know already who our powerhouses are going to be. Space Lost versus AG. Honestly, with Space Lost showing, I didn't really get to talk about this because you kind of summed up everything. But Space Lost as a team looks super strong together. Great mid to late game macro calls. They didn't really struggle to close out the games against Hyperion. I actually have 2-0 Space Lost over AG.
We have not seen AG play, which is the one thing I'm like I'm a little curious. And we were kind of still thinking like Space Lost is a sleeper team, but not necessarily like one of the best teams. So I do wonder how close the gap is between those two teams individually. It'll probably depend a lot on how AG RH handles Rivals in week 1. If they take a game off Rivals, then AG RH will probably be pretty good. If they do take a game off Rivals, but if they get completely demolished by Rivals, which I think most people would expect, I don't know how week 2 would be because it's just such a different tier of opponent.
Yep. I think this comes in no surprise as well. The second match, Jolly Rogers 2-0. I don't think there's any hesitation with. I don't think there's anything controversial about me saying this, but Jolly Rogers as a roster, very experienced, very good. Shouldn't be too much of a trip for them.
I would have to agree, and it's not even any flame towards the team that they're playing. It's just if you're playing Jolly Rogers this week, it's probably safe to say 2-0 unless you're Stano or Rivals at this point.
For our third matchup, this one is a little hard to say after Hellfire had the amazing showing versus Phoenix Fire in our week 1 match. I don't think overall they're still going to beat Rivals, but I see it being 2-1 at least. Hellfire showed that they can keep up even with their own inner roster of being put higher than them.
Yeah, and maybe these are two top teams. Like maybe even TPH is better. We don't really know how good Phoenix Fire is. we know DPH will be fight with everybody. I think they'll play up and down to their competition all the time, beat the people that they should, but then also give these top teams a run for their money most of the time, just because of how their style and their champions go. But Phoenix Fire, it's a team that like could definitely spiral out of control and potentially even miss the playoffs if they can't figure it out, because they have another crucial match up against Rat Tactics next week, and then they play in week 3 the Dreamers, who are projected not to be just a rollover team. Like if they are like 1-2 entering division play, where the division play is even harder than this out of division play, it could look rough for them, or they would have to really upset some people to get into that 4th spot for the playoffs. That was a crucial week 1 loss, I think, for them.
And our match of the week 1. Ooh, this is rough. I don't have a prediction quite yet, but if I had to make one, might be 2-1 in Rat Tactics' favor.
I think I would also kind of say that same thing. Rat Tactics, especially if Rat Tactics can channel some sort of inner energy they had when they beat JRGC for a game, that's scary.
that is very fearful. Taking a game off Jolly Rogers is huge, especially in week 1 play, when a lot of these rosters came together at just maybe 1 or 2 weeks before week 1 and haven't had much playing time. To be able to take a game off Jolly Rogers, I think Rat Tactics actually just might be the number 2 team in the league, depending on how the season goes.
Right. So they'll have a really good test. Both teams have a really good test in that game of the week for Phoenix Fire and Rat Tactics. Both teams need to like bounce back from game 3 losses that lost them the series. And like whoever loses this matchup is going to go, like, one of these teams that was projected in the top 4 is going to all of a sudden be 0-2.
Yeah. I think this week 2 really decides the higher end of power rankings. I think depending on, especially on that match, the power rankings are going to be shook up. Because either we get Rack Tactics, who took a game off Jolly Rogers, beats Phoenix Fire 2-1, and honestly becomes the number 2 team in the league. Or we have Phoenix Fire, who beats Rat Tactics, who took a game off Jolly Rogers, and now Phoenix Fire just like, all right, we had a rough week 1, now moves up in the power rankings even higher.
Right. I could definitely see that. I think the biggest jump is probably going to be putting Hellfire somewhere in this top 5. It's honestly, they probably just kind of replace where Phoenix Fire is at the moment. I think you just kind of interchangeably swab them until either DPH comes back down to earth, or DPP plays up to their potential. But yeah, no, that match should be really fun. I'd give it the match of the week. Not sure if it's going to be the streamed match. I'm looking at a couple of options, and obviously the scheduling matters a lot. Hoping to get 2 of these games on the official Merc stream this week, though. And I think getting Rivals or RT on there would be an amazing thing to have. Even also Jolly Rogers against Dreamers could also be a good one to have.
This comes as no surprise to anyone. I'm not biased or anything. 2-0 White Lotus with Stereo over Cover Knights. I think overall, White Lotus looking as a roster alone into Cover Knights is enough to just kind of justify a 2-0.
I think White Lotus is a really good opportunity because they do play in the hard division, correct?
Yes, we do have East.
Yeah, you guys are in the East. You guys have a really good shot at potentially entering divisional play at 3-0. Like you tough it out against Dreamers, you make some sort of upset happen there, or it's not even really an upset. I think both the teams are.
I think both of you have us 2-1 in pick'ems. Both of you have us 2-1 in pick'ems. So hopefully That doesn't shake
Should be
anything.
very, it should be a very close series, and then I think CK is just. I think you guys can handle them um, until proven otherwise, and then in this week 3 you have to play an Elysian team that we're not really even sure plays on it, so that would be huge though. Like, it really opens up your guys' playoff shots for the East play, and then like that's what I was kind of talking about. I was like, well, if you have Stano, JRGC, and rivals at the top, then who's going to be that 4th spot? White Lotus or Space Lofts, or is it going to be DPP? So that was a crucial. DPP has to get their crap together, or they're gonna be in a very serious spot not too far into the season where everything's kind of win now, have to win out type of things.
I agree. Sorry, wow. English language is very difficult. Merciginu Force and Hyperion. We haven't seen Merciginu Force play yet. We might not even get to see them play until week 2. Hyperion really didn't have that great of a showing. If it's gonna be close, I put 2-1, but I'm kind of leaning more towards 2-0 in Merciginu. But I'm gonna play it safe and say 2-1 Merciginu over Hyperion.
I also agree. Or actually, I don't. I actually have a different one than you on this. I think it's Hyperion 2-1 over MGF. I think they get their crap together, and I don't think MGF's that great. So this is a very even matchup. I do want to say that. I think and both teams are like in this kind of the same tier towards the bottom, along with like SNCCK, at least how it stands at this very moment. I like Hyperion because of Psycho Pomp. I think he's gonna be the main carry. He's not gonna fuck around on Senna 80 carry anymore like we saw in the week 1 match. And then Kuda's gonna find some sort of groove and play better as the season goes. And like you have Tame, and the mid laner did not even play that bad. Like I just think someone else needs to step up with Psycho Pomp, and then this team immediately kind of comes back up into the middle of the tiers where they're gonna at least be competitive with a little over half the league. But what did you have for this last matchup?
Manta Rays as a roster already is enough to scare people, but the fact that we really don't know what Elysian is going to do, 2-0 at Manta Rays shouldn't come as a surprise. I think
I also have them listed 2-0.
Yeah, it's mainly a fact that we don't know how this Elysian roster is gonna come. We kind of saw it come in last second with the departure of Milky Way, but Manta Rays, I believe it's a known name here in Merc, and made grand finals last year, right? I'm not missing information. I wasn't here last year, so I need to verify.
They are the winner. Yeah. At least their jungler is the only returning member, but I like when I look at this squad compared to last year's Stano Swell Kraken's team, this one somehow looks better. And that's scary.
That's scary. That is in fact very scary. So real quick, we're gonna take a quick intermission before we get to our back half of the talking points. Feel free to ask in chat any questions. I'll answer what I can.
We'll yap about anything.
Yes, we are certified yappers here. So we'll take a quick intermission and we'll be right back here in a second.
Yeah, I gotta go. I'll be right back in a couple of minutes.
Hi, I'm pissed.
All right, I'm back. If you get going again.
Alrighty. So I actually wanted to take a step back into week one because we still have some unplayed games, and normally we wouldn't have this opportunity to kind of snipe out some stuff. General opinion on the teams who haven't played. So we have Rivals, AG Harambe, Dreamers, White Lotus, Coven Knights, Manta Rays, Elysium if they can get a roster together, and Marquinhos Force. Of the remaining teams in week one, who we have a week one game tonight, we have one tomorrow, we have one next Wednesday. What are your carry threats you think you're going to see coming into it?
For tonight's game?
Or just in general of all of them.
Okay.
I'd say who's to look out for on each roster.
Okay, I did a little bit of this on the pick'ems and stuff. I did have I do know them a little bit by name though. If you want to go back to that schedule really quickly. Okay, so from what I noticed with Rivals, I think Nicholas is an early MVP candidate for me out of the mid lane. I know I did see some really awesome performances in the mid lane from some of these other teams in week one, but I think Nicholas will be the one that's like kind of consistent. I have him as the number one mid laner in the league. I fully expect him to carry along with Robo in this first game against Ag Rip Harambe. And for Ag Rip Harambe, there was a couple players that I thought were X Factor on the roster. It was Kuba and how, because I have him kind of ranked towards the middle of the pack for power rankings of players in the mid lane. So I want to see how he handles Nicholas, and if he handles him okay, then this team might have a decent shot at maybe stealing a game or stealing a series. I don't think the bot lane for Ag is that great, but I also don't think Rivals' bot lane's amazing either. So I'm gonna have to go with Don't Eat Bees as their kind of their secondary guy who plays top, but he's not a top main.
I have heard some rumors about Rivals bot lane also being an old man. So
yeah, there's a lot of old men in this league. I feel 40 and 50-year-olds. I think is what we were talking about. Banter chat. So yeah, I think it just comes down to straight up solo laners on both teams. That both teams are kind of set up in the same way. Like with maybe weak side bot lanes with laners that are pretty decent, but also I think Rivals' jungle probably has the edge over Harambe's jungler. But again, both of them aren't particularly strong in my opinion. So who knows?
Yeah, we won't really know until we see it. Same for me on Rivals. I think Nicholas is going to be a monster in the mid lane. There aren't any, I would say, particular mid lane threats standing out in other rosters. So I think definitely they're going to be playing heavily around Nicholas. Because I think his mid lane pool is a lot of just carries.
It is. It's basically the perfect comp pool. There's like Corki, there's like Syndra. This is OP, but it's everything you would ever want in a mid laner, especially like if you were like have experience trying out teams or like and or players. This is the guy that like you would probably instantly just fall in love with. Like even this season already has like 30 games, and you can see like there's a lot of Aurora, some Yone, Syndra, Diana, Smolder. Like these are really powerful picks, to say the least. I will be curious to see if he's like good enough to face off against like the slightly higher elo
the Jolly Rogers game.
Yeah, Prison Mike. I think I got him a little wrong in the power rankings. He looked pretty dominant in that series, at least for two of the games. I don't know. I want to watch that second game or yeah, the second game they played, they like completely screwed them. Like Rat Tactics like didn't just beat them, they like demolished them. So it was like it's really weird. I don't know. I think yeah, I don't know. He'll have to prove himself against some of these better guys down the road, I think. And I think it starts tonight with Kuba. He's got to separate the gap in the power rankings and make Kuba look like he is the 6th or 7th power or best mid laner, like he is predicted.
All right. Who do you think's carrying Dreamers?
Dreamers. Okay, so this was a good, interesting roster. I do have them the top ranked SNC team. I liked Dio's OP.GG, and when I was kind of peeping around and there, I've also heard good things about the mid laner Sheriff. So, but he's not particularly higher elo, or I don't even know if he's like really even like that much of a mid lane main. I could be wrong about that. Let me look back a little bit. Yeah, he's like an 80. He seems to be coming off of like 80 carry mostly. So, and then like then he like switches seasons pretty much. He's got mid lane and then he goes to 80 carry and then he's back on mid lane. So I like Sheriff and his profile. He's a gold player. He was a gold 3 player at the end of the season. Probably look to carry through him and Dio. And then Asar, his profile screams weak side to me, which I think is perfect for this team. Because they just need someone to just be up there and be a rock and not let someone like you take over the game. Because you play them week 1. Like Asar, he plays. If you like look back one more season, it was a lot more tank picks and stuff like that. Yeah, like you got the Garen. There's a couple in there that he could do some damage with a weak side pick, and I think we'll see even more weak side picks once the comp starts coming out. Like they're gonna put him on this Ornn duty. I've seen Cho'Gath mains be really strong. I even have one on my Emerald team that is insanely good at Cho'Gath. And then Nat, like even if he wants to play like Nasus or Camille in the weak side, it's perfectly okay to do. You got your work cut out, I think, for you week 1.
All right. Well, I guess we're just gonna have to branch into it. What are you looking at for a White Lotus? Who's carrying White Lotus?
Looked at a few things for this roster. Initially, I screamed that this was like a roster that didn't have like a role player or like a weak side player. So like you have a strong top laner top who has a good like splitting and duelist type of pool with like Fiora and Camille and Gwen and stuff like that. And then you have a hyper carry bot lane with their plat exception being the support, which is his name is support. Fun fact. And then also a hyper carry mid laner. So like someone on this team is going to have to nut up eventually and kind of bite the bullet in order to make like good team comps to come together and win these games, or you're just going to end up with 5 champions that don't have any CC. But I think in terms of carry ability, I would probably say it's easier to go bot side here, just because you can getting 80 carry up in comp is always just a really strong thing to do in general. Like it's always been like that. If your ADC is pretty strong, and when you're playing in comp, you're in a pretty good spot if your ADC is the last one to die. That's generally the fight's going pretty well.
Yeah, that means you probably played the fight correctly.
Yeah. And I think they have a perfect complement in the support. Like that's a good role player to have there. Like just having a good support for it. but I don't know if like Soren or even yourself has like some sort of like weak side to it. That's my only kind of concern. But I would say I think playing through bot lane, and if it doesn't work out, flipping the top, or at least having the decency to be like, hey, we're red side or blue side this game. Whoever gets not banned out, we're gonna play for the people that has more of their champion out. You know?
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense in terms of everything.
But like also has to like the other side, whoever's not carrying on like the designated game, needs to, appropriately accommodate that player the same way that they would accommodate on the other side. So I'll be curious to see how drafts and stuff look for this team. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for it. I think it's coming down to yourself or Smolder's Gate as the two guys. I don't think Flash on F is the guy, but he might be a solid like secondary carry.
I'm gonna defend my boy real quick. I remember when you scouted him out, he was having internet issues. I give Flash on F a little more than what you've probably seen, just because, like I said, he was having some internet issues in the time that you were doing your scouting. And as someone who's doing with them, it was not the greatest. But yeah, I agree with the direction. I think it is very draft dependent on who they choose to ban out. So yeah, I mean, I agree with everything because I
don't think there's a bad place to go on this team. Like whoever it's just making the decision in general. That's the real kicker. Like, are they going to do it by like exploiting the weakest matchup rank wise or like on another team, or are they just going to do it based off of how people ban them and play them? There's a lot of options and a lot of different ways you can go. But yeah, I do think Flash, I will defend even further that my opinion, even after looking at it again on the op.gg, I think he's going to be a good secondary carry, but I think there might be some inconsistency with this player, which makes him a good candidate to not be the main character, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think the last one was probably Coven Knights and Manta Rays, because obviously we can't really do Elysian. We kind of can't do Elysian or Merkini right now with some of the roster issues that both the teams have been facing lately.
I can talk about some X factors for both teams, because I think Elysian has like a lot of their roster kind of set up. So I will touch on that one real quick. They have some good players. Kappa Crusader, who's projected to be in the jungle, and then Sensual Vixen. They have like higher eloed guys. Like this is like a gold team with some plats or some former plats on it, but then it just kind of has like some weird one-offs that are like bronze. So it'll really depend, but I think those like one-offs on the bronze are like it's like Traxon who's just playing weak side top. Like you don't need a strong top laner when you have a fundamentally sound one who's just not going to feed the enemy Fiora or the Gwen or the Camille. Like that's all you really need from your weak side guy. They don't need to solo kill anybody this whole season.
Yeah. And we can't talk about Elysian right now. Elysian, Merc. I think they don't have a jungler, if I'm correct on that, right?
They do have one now.
They have one
it's
now.
This Drakchi guy. Yeah, they added him, I believe, yesterday or the day before. He does have some plat 4 games and some plat 4 finishes. So, but he looks like a top lane mid. Which is like adds to the even more of like he is the type of guy though, like I about it, they need just someone to come in and start and like carry. If this guy can like learn jungle and like carries and stuff, like I see some Hecarim in here, yeah, even Echo, like I think they could probably come in and maybe carry, because the rest of the team is set up in like their own role. Like I think the bot lane, like Zismol and Zombie are perfect for like weak side. Bloodmerc plays a lot of control mages, but he's like a good secondary carry, as I was kind of referring to, like flash on mid. And then this top laner is an ADC main with some top lane experience from the past that looked really weak side. So I think that a lot has to come out of this jungler, or Zismol has to step up quite a bit. That's how I kind of see this team. So I think the X factors is Zismol and Drakji, who's the jungler for Merc Ginyu. And then for when we were just talking about Elysian, it would be Sensual and Kappa. So yeah, like they just had to play up to the rank.
Interaction going on. Alpha saying that Merc will win MVP this year, so we have some Merc enjoyers here. And
I think
it's more of a
I don't think Merc will be, as long as he like has his pool, like he plays a solid 5-ish control mages that all do like about the same thing, so they'll be really consistent. And there are a lot of champions that are hard to fuck up. Like I think he plays like there's like Malzahar, Ziggs, and stuff like that. So like I think he'll be fine. I don't think he's going to be the reason this team loses. I'm kind of looking maybe more top laner for that, and potentially the bot lane maybe just being outmatched by some of the better bot lanes in this league, because there are really good AD carries in this. I would say that's probably the strongest position that we have all around is the AD carry role. They all seem to be pretty deep.
And then DP Hellfire's new mid laner. I have not paid attention much to the roster change, so that's not my forte. Yeah, I'm assuming probably what is the mid laner, asking about your thoughts on them.
You wanted so DPH's new mid laner, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So he very curiously, I like this guy a lot. Very nice individual. Came to us from actually when we were helping Milky Way do a tryout. So he was supposed to try out for Milky Way's team, but we needed a mid laner for the day, and we were already scrimming him. So he came over to our team, and he never left. And we kept him on DP. Yeah. So he's solid. I think there's a lot he can clean up, but I think he has the drive to get better. Like I see him in there all the time with our coaches in Dropping Point, and he's always kind of working. He plays a lot of games. Like if you click on his profile, he's already up, I don't even know, probably close to like 30-40 games on the season already. But he's got some drive. He just needs to work on like some of his macro and consistently farming, just being more consistent overall, limiting deaths. But like you saw his game 2 as in the Akali when he just hard carried on that pick, and like that's his like peak, that's his like potential right there of what we just saw there. And then his low points would be like the Ori game that was before that game, and or the Hawaii game that. So just needs to find consistency, and he'll be a really good X Factor mid laner for this whole league.
All right, I think that wraps about everything. I think we got through everything. We have our week 2 pick'ems already. Gonna be interested to see how that goes. Got our match of the week. Gonna win over all of our rosters. I think this is gonna shape up to be a good season. I think there are a lot of good teams here, especially after seeing some of these week 1 games. We weren't entirely straightforward on predicting some of these, and some of these teams are coming out here to perform, and I think that's gonna be a very exciting season.
And yeah, it should be really. I'm really excited to see everything kind of come together. Spent a lot of time kind of making all of this, so hopefully everyone's having fun. And at the end of the day, not too much of a commitment. And yeah, like this league is just at the end of the day for fun. I do this for fun as well. I don't really get paid for this at all. So Merc should pay me.
He should, honestly. Honestly, he should.
I'm kidding. He should pay super fast. That guy's awesome at production and stuff. So shout out to him for doing all the streams and stuff. And a lot of the things that look nice in the Discord is all because of super fast. He hasn't even touched this document yet, besides putting the logos in there for me. So this is kind of this is probably the most organized you'll ever see me be from a master sheet. So Yeah.
You gotta remember your number one unofficial staff member because I answer questions faster than people can look at Discord.
Yeah. maybe down the line you'll be a nice TO for us. Maybe even helping in the plat and the emerald divisions as well. So we're always looking for people to help out and be consistent. So that's something we kind of struggled with, is finding the consistency in some staff members. We've gone through a couple in the first season or two that we've done this. So yeah.
All right, stream chat. We're going to end it off here. This has been MochiiYaps episode 1. Gonna try to make this a Thursday thing. Just depends on my own schedule with it. As it is a mostly player ran podcast, it would look like. And other than that, thank you guys for coming out. I will be uploading a VOD of this to YouTube, and that will also get posted for anyone that's missed it, as well as I know Twitch ads are annoying. I'm sorry. I spaced it out as long as I could. I tried. The ads came in at awkward times, but
profiting off your viewers. That's crazy. Dude makes more money off me than I do in the league.
All right, but yes, we get the VOD over to YouTube. Probably either tonight or tomorrow. I do have a scrim tonight, so I gotta report to that scrim. But yeah, thanks for coming out, and we'll see you guys next week.